Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from the Telesur Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. You stay with us. And we start in Libya, where rescue workers are still collecting the bodies of dozens of migrants who were killed overnight after an airstrike targeted a migrant detention center outside the Libyan capital, Tripoli. According to the Ministry of Health, at least 40 people were killed and more than 130 have sustained injuries following the airstrike on the facility, which was housing 120 migrants. Tripoli has been ravaged by intense fighting since April, when military allied to Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar launched an offensive to overthrow the UN-backed government of national accord. The country has been in chaos since former Prime Minister Muammar Gaddafi was overthrown by NATO-backed forces, leading to widespread violence and the prevalence of slave markets. And the United Nations Security Council has strongly condemned Tuesday's airstrike on a migrant facility on the Libyan capital, Tripoli, as we were saying. Speaking after an emergency council meeting on Libya, UN Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet said the strike on the facility was a deliberate act and not a mistake, as both sides knew the location and coordinates of the facility. Peru's ambassador to the UN Security Council, Gustavo Mexacuadra, said the council is yet to agree on what actions to take on the actors behind the strike.
There were refugees and migrants, and we all condemn that. We haven't agreed on an element for the press. Maybe we'll have a press statement, but we are still discussing it. I think also we all agree on the issue that Ghassan Salamé efforts need to be supported, but I don't want to tell all the areas where we agree on an agreement.
Some people wounded and they die on the road on their way running, and some people are still under the block. So we don't know what to say. All what we know is we want UN to help people out of this place, because this place is dangerous. We know it's going to happen like this before, but we don't have any power to do anything. So there's small children, and there's some people that stranded here. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. Like me, I don't know what to go. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go.
And following the attack, the United Nations Refugee Agency called for the evacuation of migrant detention centers in Libya, as well as a thorough investigation into the attacks. A spokesperson for the UNHCR added that Europe must finally shift its approach to the humanitarian crisis gripping the Mediterranean and provide aid for migrants trying to flee extreme poverty and war.
We know that both sides have the coordinates of these detention centres. Both sides are aware where these detention centres are located and that there are people inside those detention centres at the time being. So what needs to happen now is a full and thorough investigation. Those found to be responsible need to be held to account. Having airstrikes drop on a civilian building in this way is a violation of international humanitarian law, and there needs to be action taken now against those responsible and to make sure this doesn't happen again. There has to be a shift now from Europe in how we approach the Mediterranean situation. There needs to be an end to the toxicity of the political debate around what to do with refugees and migrants. There needs to be an end to politicians seeing this as a political trophy to win, and it needs to be reframed as a primarily humanitarian issue. We need to see an end to the policies that serve as a deterrent to NGO search and rescue vessels, and we need states to work together to ensure that no one is returned to Libya at this time.
The African Union has also condemned that airstrike in Libya that the chairman of the African Union Commission issued a statement calling for an independent investigation to bring those responsible to justice. He further urged all warring parties to cease fire and return to the negotiating table. And to have more details about this strike and the situation living in the Middle East, we have the following report from the Middle East, from Cairo in Egypt, from Nayara Tardo with the details. Welcome, Nayara, tell us.
More than 40 people died, with many more injured during an aerial attack against a migrant detention center in Tripoli, the capital of Libya. Local media outlets are reporting that the attack has been attributed to forces loyal to Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar. The attack has drawn international condemnation. The African Union has released a communique criticizing the attack and calling for an immediate independent investigation to ensure that those responsible face justice. The UN emissary to Libya, Ghassan Salam, denounced the attack as a war crime, also calling for an independent investigation, referring to the attack as a breach of human rights. The EU representative for Foreign Affairs, Federica Mogherini, also added her name to the list of people calling for investigation. The attack took place at night, specifically against this migrant detention center.
Thank you, Nayara. And now we move on from topic and we go to the Caribbean because CARICOM heads of government are meeting in St. Lucia for the 40th regular meeting of CARICOM from this 3rd of July till the 5th. And our correspondent in St. Lucia, Alison Kentish, has the details for us on the following report. Welcome, Alice. Tell us what's happening there.
Heads of government of the Caribbean community CARICOM are in St. Lucia for their 40th regular meeting, which got off to a rather late start this afternoon. The 3 days of deliberation on major issues impacting the region got underway just a few hours ago with an official opening ceremony. CARICOM Secretary General Erwin LaRocque, in addressing the opening ceremony, spoke of efforts to tackle crime in the region to help member states get rid of the label of non-cooperative tax jurisdiction, and he reaffirmed the CARICOM stance, and which he described as a non-negotiable stance on non-interference and non-intervention in the affairs of sovereign states. Outgoing chairman of CARICOM, Dr. Timothy Harris, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, stated that there have been major strides made in areas such as trade and security, but he says there is still a lot of work to be done. Now, Prime Minister Harris took some time out to speak specifically on Venezuela, and he said that the rest of the world is coming to terms and agreeing that CARICOM has always had the right stance where Venezuela is concerned. If you recall, a number of prime ministers of CARICOM, including Roosevelt Skerrit of Dominica, Gaston Brown of Antigua and Barbuda, Prime Minister Harris himself of St. Kitts and Nevis, Ralph Gonsalves of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Mia Motley of Barbados, have all maintained a stance of non-interference, non-intervention, respect for sovereignty, and they have always said that CARICOM should serve as a mediator in Venezuela. So Prime Minister Harris is saying where Venezuela is concerned, CARICOM has always had it right. Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Alan Chasney, also addressed the opening ceremony this evening, and he spoke of plans to continue the good work that was undertaken during the chairmanship of Prime Minister Harris, and especially in areas of climate change and building the CARICOM single markets and economy.
Thank you, Alison. And indeed, as at the opening ceremony this Wednesday, St. Lucia's Prime Minister and entering chairman of the CARICOM, Timothy Harris from St. Kitts and Nevis, the Prime Minister and outgoing chairman, spoke at the opening session, and he talked about Venezuela, and this is what he said. Let's hear it.
International contact group on several occasions, while our foreign ministers have engaged with Venezuelan opposition representatives. We have consistently argued that the cardinal principles to undergird a resolution of the political crisis in Venezuela should include: 1. Non-interference in the internal affairs of Venezuela. 2. The inviolability of the sovereign state. 3. Respect for democracy, rule of law, and the Constitution of Venezuela. And 4thly, peace and resolution of conflict. The Montevideo mechanism provides a guide to achieve this peaceful resolution. Its 4 imperatives are dialogue, negotiation, commitment, and implementation. Speaking to dialogue between both parties, I must commend the efforts of the Norwegian government to bring the two sides together in an attempt to end the impasse and allow the country to return again to stability. Venezuela is our neighbor, and our member states are being affected by the crisis. For us, this is not a geopolitical game of chess. It is a situation creating real hardships for millions of people right on our doorstep, fostering instability in our already fragile economies and exacerbating criminal activity.
And like that, we make a first break here from the South. Make sure you follow us on Twitter as you're seeing it, on my account at Laura P. Telesur, and of course on our house account at Telesur English. Stay with us. We are back with more news. Nigeria is set to become the largest country to sign the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. On Wednesday, the government announced that President Muhammadu Buhari will sign the agreement of the forthcoming African Union Summit to be held in Niger. The announcement will give a boost to the ambitious project that seeks to integrate African economies by eliminating tariffs on 90% of goods traded between signatories to the agreement. Nigeria was one of the three countries that had initially declined to sign the agreement in fear of exposing its manufacturers to great competition. And now in other kind of information, the Tanzanian citizen has been sentenced to life in prison for his role in the 2015 Garissa University College attack in Kenya, which left 148 people dead. Two other militants were jailed for 41 years each. The attack was the second deadliest in the country, and the suspects were found guilty of conspiracy to commit a terrorist attack and of belonging to the Al-Shabaab terrorist group, which has links to Al-Qaeda.
I will sentence him to commission of a terrorist act on each of the counts 2 to 150, where he will serve life imprisonment. Therefore, the first and second accused person will serve 41 years imprisonment each.
And the Zimbabwean government has hailed its bilateral relationship with China, while condemning misleading negative publicity from Western countries. Zimbabwe's information minister has urged citizens not to be swayed by negative propaganda, which mainly comes from the West against China's relationship with African countries. China is currently collaborating with Zimbabwe on several projects, including construction and infrastructure development.
Zimbabwe is happy to have China as an ally. China is a powerful global player, which even other powerful nations are keen to befriend. Government urges all Zimbabweans to show their tolerance, their hospitality, their love, their friendliness towards investments that employs our people, investments that supports our economy.
And a court in Sicily has refused to expel the captain of the Sea-Watch migrant rescue ship after the Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini said he was ordering her deportation to Germany. Carola Rackett, who was released from house arrest on Tuesday, has been arrested 3 days earlier after steering her ship. carrying 41 migrants from Africa through a naval blockade into the port of Lampedusa. A judge said Rakete had not broken the law because she was carrying out her duty to save lives.
Carola is a completely free person today. At the moment, there is a particular interest on the part of the Minister of the Interior, Matteo Salvini, to expel Carola. But for now, the prosecutor is not authorizing her expulsion, so that the legal process can continue and she can be questioned on July 9th. She is free to go to Germany if she wants, but she is not obligated to do so.
Now, to have more details on this case, we have the following report sent earlier by our correspondent Sergio Rodrigo. Welcome, Sergio. Tell us what happened.
The Italian justice system has allowed Carol Rakete, the captain of the migrant rescue vessel, the Sea-Watch 3, to walk free. She had spent several days under house arrest in Sicily, in the south of Italy. The captain had been accused of disobedience, but the Italian judiciary found that it wasn't safe for the more than 40 migrants who were rescued when making the journey across the Mediterranean to disembark in Libya or Tunisia. The Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini has attacked the captain as well as other NGOs working to save migrants. He released his latest communique saying that he was expelling Rakete to Germany, but a court in Sicily rejected that. Salvini wants to fine NGOs saving migrants up to 50,000 euros for doing so.
Thank you, Sergio. And like this, we go to a second and very short break. You stay tuned with us. And we begin talking about Colombia because Senator for the FARC party, Jesus Santrich, is still missing after leaving his security team in Tierra Grata last Saturday. The government of Iván Duque didn't hesitate in claiming that he had run away, thus breaking the peace agreement. To have more details and to understand better what is this about, we have the following story for you.
FARC Senator Julian Gallo says Jesus Santrich didn't inform the party about his decision to abandon his security scheme, nor about his intention of going into hiding for security reasons.
We are waiting because we are concerned about the complaints regarding security issues. But we were not aware of his intentions because, as I said before, he did not officially communicate anything to the party.
For some politicians, it's crucial to clarify what's happened to Santrich and leave speculation to one side.
If the circumstances are not clear, it is easy to jump to harmful conclusions that are not serious, especially in a case of this magnitude.
Some analysts say the congressman hasn't failed the peace process before, and it remains unclear why he decided to abandon his security scheme.
Santrich is not incarcerated and doesn't have any restriction of movement. As a congressman, he even has more privileges in moving around than the other citizens. He doesn't have to ask for permission to move around within the country. So this all looks like political persecution, a scandal of a sort, made up by the president against Mr. Santrich.
As for the government, they say Santrich ran away, abandoning the peace deal and mocking the authorities.
It is very worrying that the government and the tabloids are all claiming that Santrich ran away. They label him a criminal, and their behavior in a way justifies Santrich's disappearance. Their speeches are full of hate. They undermine guarantees of peace process for ex-combatants during their reincorporation process.
For the FARC party, it's crucial that Santrich clears up any doubts about his whereabouts over the coming days, as well as whether he will appear before the Supreme Court of Justice on July 9th.
And we stay in Colombia, and we talk now about the National Liberation Army, because they have reasserted its desire to restart peace talks with the government of Iván Duque once again. The ELN delegation in Cuba said it had delivered a summary of the progress made so far in previous talks to the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and to the International Red Cross Committee. They said it was important to build the following talks on what had already been achieved.
On July 3rd in the Vatican, Rome, we formally delivered this package of agreements through a group of priests who defend peace and human rights. The aim of this is to make clear that in any future talks, we should continue to build on what has been achieved in the previous process, so that the agreements and progress that we made then does not get lost, and we do not have to start from scratch when a new round of talks gets underway.
We change region and we change topic. Moscow and Pyongyang are intensifying their partnership in several areas, including military cooperation. Russia's Deputy Defense Minister made the disclosure during his meeting with the Vice Minister of the People's Armed Forces in the North Korean capital. He said Russia appreciates the development of the contacts between the two countries, saying that the meeting between Russia's leader Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was of paramount importance.
High-level contacts give additional impetus to bilateral relations in various fields, including military cooperation. We note that interdepartmental cooperation has intensified recently, including that at a high level.
And China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Geng Shuang has dismissed British efforts to interfere in Hong Kong, describing them as shameless. China has made a diplomatic complaint following comments by United Kingdom Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt, and the Foreign Ministry said that the senior British diplomat is stuck in the fantasy of colonialism in days gone by. Geng added that events in China's special administrative region of Hong Kong are a purely internal affair.
The UK has had firstly no sovereignty, secondly no authority, and thirdly no powers of supervision over Hong Kong since the handover. There is absolutely no such thing as this so-called responsibility. The UK placing itself as the protector of Hong Kong at every turn is a purely self-constructed illusion. To say that the freedoms of Hong Kong residents are something Britain strives for is simply shameless. I would like to ask Mr. Hunt, during the British colonial era in Hong Kong, was there any democracy to speak of? Hong Kongers didn't even have the right to protest.
And in South Korea, tens of thousands of casual workers in the public sector have taken to the streets of Seoul. They are demanding that President Moon Jae keep his promise to give them the status of regular employees and increase their wages. The demonstration is the start of a 3-day strike by an alliance of school workers. A reported 50,000 workers are taking part in this protest, which is supported by the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions. The workers also want a pay rise of more than 6%, while the government says that it can only offer 1.8%. And now we finish with a colorful and cultural touch from Bolivia. A neighborhood, and his council president has used color and art to bring joy to Chuauma, a hillside section of the capital, La Paz. The buildings were previously the colors of dirt, adobe, and bricks. Now they are marvelous multicolored murals, and the project was the brainchild of a 59-year-old Tomasa Gutierrez Choque, an indigenous Bolivian woman who never went to school but bloomed after taking up the leadership role in her community.
I say the colors are so beautiful. It's truly a joy for me to get up in the morning and not see dirt, the color of adobe or brick, but to get up and see colors. Going to store is a joy for me because I see the colors.
With this beautiful and colorful initiative, we come to the end of the Institute Free Pad. Of course, you can find this and much more other stories on our website. As you're seeing it, telasurenglish.net, where you can find opinion article or watch the special interviews. Continue with Telesur, always connecting the global thousands. Until next time, thank you for watching.